20-year lawsuit. It could have all been avoided. It was senseless because there were millions of dollars in royalties, and I tried for 4 fucking years, from 91 to 97, to say, can't we just work something out? You know, I mean, this wasn't something I wanted to do. This was like the last thing I wanted to do, you know? But it was right is right, and I'm willing to, you know, just show me some, you know, some humanity, you know, just a little compassion, you know, and maybe just help me out, settle with me, you know, just something that to make all of this just have been worth it for me, you know. And they said no, and they hurt me deeply, fucking deeply. And there was nowhere to go but to file this lawsuit.
I feel bad for you.
It's all right, you know. It's just part of life, and there's nothing to feel bad for. It's part of my story, you know, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So
it's you that I feel bad for.
It's all right. That's all right. You don't have to feel bad. There's nothing to feel bad about. You know, I'm leaving you guys with a lot of music, and you know, who knows what's coming. That's the best part, right?
Now, do you have interest in putting out some new music?
The one thing that has saved me through 20 years, I'll tell you what, my friends that I love dearly crucified me. So I was crucified. I died and I was buried in that courthouse on Hill Street in Los Angeles by one judge that wanted to make sure he had a headstone that said, "Here lies Vinnie Vincent. Fuck you, Vinnie." That was what that lawsuit, you know, that was the final ruling on my lawsuit. But I rose again, so I'm here. And the miracle that I survived that lawsuit was probably as miraculous as surviving what happened to me in 1984. And I just put it behind me. We eventually settled everything that we had between us, all the problems, about 7 years ago. But I was in hell for 20 years, and it was my hell. Nobody knew it. And I saw the world going by. I saw what everybody was saying about me. I saw what everybody in the band was saying about me, and I said, what a shame, you know? What a shame. There was no reason for it. I mean, we could have had, in my opinion, such a fucking great band, you know? And, you know, we still can, because that magic never ends. I still love them. I mean, it's never gonna go away. So when you respect, and I do dearly respect Gene and Paul with all my heart, I love them, and I always will. They gave me this. With the good came the bad, but the magic that we have together never dies. Because when I didn't see them from 84 to 91, 91 was our first meeting again after Vinnie Vincent Invasion. And Gene said, we're recording a new record. I think I saw Gene in a recording studio. And give us a call, let's work together. I said, I'd love to see you. And then Revenge happened, and those songs, and it was, I said, this is the moment, you know, this is the band, this is it, you know. Unholy was Gene and I, that was our baby. Paul and I wrote 2 songs, and we worked together for a year on that record, and it was, you know, another fun time. I mean, every time we worked together, it was just a joy. The magic, it's something that you can't I can't put into words. Magic is not the right word for it because it's electric, you know, when you just, something that happens when you plug in something and you know, there's electricity here, you know, and it just works. So it turned out to be a great record and a lot of music that I'm proud of. So never say never, never say die.
Can we talk about I think that was a big thing for a lot of fans, is when they saw that fucking mugshot.
Well, it was a fucking shot. It was horrible. It was like the worst thing. It was a day that was surreal, you know. It was, even to this day, it was like, that didn't really happen, did it? But it was so surreal, and it was the culmination of 15, 17 years of two people that should not have been together. But if I think I could end it there, but I don't think it explains enough. It's certainly not something that I would be happy with if I left you right now, not explaining and not telling you from my eyes, from my side of that story of what happened. I wouldn't be happy if I didn't let you hear it from me, because you deserve to hear it. I won't mention any names because I think it's not right, but the person I was married to began the marriage as a beautiful, really beautiful girl, really normal, you know, apple pie, you know, type of, you know, beauty, you know, and but a really, really nice person, and somebody I wanted in my life, you know. It's not like you marry somebody that is, you know, you hate. You marry somebody that you're attracted to, and she began to take a medication, and she took it too long, and it began to transform. In my opinion, she began to transform. And then she began to drink, and it was every day, and it was more and more and more and more and more. And we lived in this really secluded place. There was no money coming in. She worked, and this lawsuit was consuming me, and everything was just, you know, crumbling. It was just like watching the sinkhole just suck everything down. And she got more hateful, more violent, more drunk. And I say this to you because I've never had a chance to defend myself, and I watched everybody just accuse me of the worst things I've ever been, you know, thought I could be accused of, which weren't true. Everybody always says, everybody who's accused says, I'm innocent, I didn't do it. And it wasn't until something happened to me like this that I realized what that really means. So people can accuse you of something, and that didn't happen. But because the world is what it is, you're guilty. You've done this. And that's what I found myself in the middle of. So over the years, the situation got so violent that this person bought a gun. And with the drinking that was happening, the medication that was transforming this poor soul, I watched her. I tried so hard to help her, to take her out of this world, and I got her off the medication, but it was too late. And the drinking just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and the violence got worse. Until it was February of 2011. And I had asked her to leave the house. We had two houses on this one big piece of land, and I said, you have to leave here, or I'll leave something, but, you know, can't live under the same roof here, because one day you're gonna turn around and use your gun on me and kill me. So, this is really personal, so I hope you appreciate how, this is not something I would tell anybody, but I'm telling you, it's going on the internet, but I think I'm doing it for the reason that I have to. If I don't tell you now, then this is always going to live back there, and it's never going to be cleansed. And I said to myself, I want to do this so this is cleansed, and it's finally put to rest, and it's finally explained without you people saying, I wonder if you really did that, And I said, no, I'm not gonna let you leave. I'm not gonna even show up if I'm not able to tell you what really happened. Because if I don't tell you, you're still gonna think that, You're still gonna question it. Did you do it or did you not, or whatever? Whatever it was I was accused of doing, So, the dogs. This is part of what leads to that day of that mugshot. Now the dogs, these were my babies. Okay, I was a kid that wanted dogs and cats and all animals. My dad loved animals, but we lived in an apartment. We lived on Archie Bunker Street, a 3-family house. Couldn't have a cat. Don't feed the cats, because they keep coming, Don't feed the dog, they keep going. Well, why not? But it was it was the landlord who can't do it. So, okay. Anyway, so during the 90s, during the 90s, we began to rescue and adopt all these abused animals. And if any dog, was having a bad day, come on home. So we had as many as we could take, and we rescued everything we could rescue until the drinking got real bad. And then once the drinking got bad, everything else got bad, real bad. So when the violence was at its peak, I said, you need to move out until you can either stop this or pull yourself together, or this relationship completely ends. But you cannot live here, or I will not live here. But you're not capable of taking care of these animals, so I am caring for everybody, and that's fine. So she had picked another place to live, and now we had 3 or 4 dogs that were, big dogs. They were just, Dobermans, those kind of dogs. And they could not be out at the same time. The little ones were out. And you had to really be conscious of this. Otherwise, what eventually happened would have happened. So, she came, I remember this, my God, it was horrible. On a Saturday, I think it was in February, she came back 3 Saturdays in a row, from middle of February to the 1st of March, 3 Saturdays in a row. So every 7 days during 3 weeks in a row, she would come back on a Saturday, drunk, violent, and angry, and ready to make hell on earth, come to life. And she'd break, just force her way into the house. Got into the house, and literal hell would just break, completely unearth itself. And I was just left dazed of, how the fucking hell can I survive this any longer? So I'd be upstairs, and she'd leave downstairs, through the downstairs door. And being completely shit-faced, intoxicated, whatever you want to call it, walks out the door, gets into her car, unaware that one of the little dogs follows her out while the big dogs are out. And she pulls the car out of the driveway, and about 10 minutes later, I'd hear the screaming of one of my dogs. And then when you got big dogs trying to kill a smaller dog, you got a sound that you just don't want to hear. It's impossible to live with. I run out there and I find one of my dogs ripped to shreds, in pieces. And it happened because of a very drunk, angry person. So I reach her on her cell phone. I said, "You left this door open and caused the death of this little soul." She kept on her way. I had to take this poor dog and wrap it in towels and just bring it in. And it was just, the horror of it was just too impossible to explain in words. So the relationship was getting worse and worse. It was like now on maximum overload. So I said, "Don't ever come back here again." 7 days later, she comes back again. Now, we're still going through this horribleness on a daily basis, but seven days later, she comes back again. The same thing happens. The same identical thing happens. Same identical thing happens. Only it's a different dog. And the same identical set of circumstances comes into the house, violent beyond words, ready to kill me, picks whatever argument there was to pick, buries me into oblivion, walks out of the house, gets in her car, pulls out, leaves the door open, not aware that another dog had gotten out, with the same big dogs that were out, because it's a routine. A certain amount of dogs go out this day, get them in. Another dog gets murdered. But dogs are dogs. That's what they do. The big ones are big, the little ones are little, and when they see little dogs that's not supposed to be there, they're going to make sure that they tear it to pieces. And I'm saying, Jesus Christ, not again. This is not possible. This is just not fucking possible. And here I am, got another dog with, her ear was on the ground. I had to take her ear with me and bring her inside. And I said, "Do you realize what you just did?" And the same scenario. Week number 3, the same identical thing happened again. Dog number 3. These were my babies. These were my children. I love them. They were everything to me. One dog, her name was Christmas, because I got her on Christmas Eve. I rescued her basically from an incinerator for dogs. And Tennessee was, that's a bad state for animal abuse. And she was a collie, Shetland collie. And then there was a Chihuahua mix, and the other one was a lab. So I lost 3 beautiful dogs that I rescued because of someone's intoxication.
So how did that end up with the MugShot? How did you end up being arrested?
The list is what will follow. So it was the winter time. She didn't want to be bothered with them, and they were dead because of her. She took full responsibility, oddly enough, in front of my attorney at a later period of time. And also in an email, she took full responsibility. to me about 3 weeks later in her moment of remorse. So it was too late, 3 beautiful dogs were dead, little souls I loved were dead, and it was winter, the ground was hard, and she didn't want to be bothered with burying them or doing anything, so I wrapped them in blankets and I had to put them in some kind of place where I could put them in a storage tub to rest them, and I had the 3 of them in their own little coffins, and I couldn't bury them until the ground was thawed and I could get an excavator. I had to get an actual steam shovel to come and dig up the ground to get them buried. So in the meantime, here they are, in the garage, because that was the only place I can keep them. And it's May 21st, the day my world changed forever. She came back, and it was violence on times 1,000. And the day began with violence, drinking, and accusing me of things that I didn't do, and drinking more, and saying, I have a gun and I'm gonna kill you. And she was attacking me a lot with her fists, and I remember having to hold her by the hair to stop her from these people have force when they're gonna, do whatever they want to do. Whatever happened, I went upstairs, and to get away from her, she followed me upstairs, and I used to film her all the time on my camera because I said, if I die, if she shoots me, nobody's gonna know what this life inside this prison was like. So I filmed her all the time, and she was very happy to perform for this camera. So I've got nothing but video of this insanity that was taking place in this house. And so I knew that day that this is the daytime. I said, my life is about to change today, and I don't know how the fuck it's gonna happen, but today's the day. And she was talking into the camera and said, you pulled my hair and dragged me, but never mentioned anything. There was no blood on her, no nothing. There was just like looking at everybody here. As clean as we all are here, with no blood on us, that's what the camera showed. And what's that? So the camera showed nothing. And I had to film this because I needed some documentation. So this is about 2, 3 in the afternoon, and she says, I'm leaving. So I'm filming her walking down the stairs, out the door, and she never came back. So it was like looking at anybody else here, looking at you, see you later, I'm out of here, Of course it wasn't like that, but it was violent, And she walked out the door, and about midnight, she never came back. It was about midnight. And I remember trying to sleep. It was really a horrible day. And all of a sudden I hear something outside the window, and there was like a flashlight, and there was somebody saying, you need to come out of your house. I'm saying, what the fuck? You need to come out of your house. Mr. Cassetto, you need to come out of your house, something like that. And what? What? And I could not believe what was happening. And I looked out the window, and I see I don't know, it could have been 5 or 6 cop cars out there. There had to be at least 14, 15 police officers there with rifles and guns drawn. I'm saying, what in God's name, what happened? What's going on? So I walked downstairs, and they frisked me, and I remember asking one of the cops, I said, "Are you going to kill me?" I was really serious. He said, "Shut up, no talking." And just get in the car. They handcuffed me, frisked me, and I said, "What did I do?" "Shut up, no talking." So I'm sitting in the back of the car, and I'm handcuffed, and I had no idea why. So got to the police station, and of course they processed me. It was like 3 in the morning, and I'm going, you know, like, what am I doing here? And they told me. So, pulled me in a room. You're accused of this and that, and domestic abuse, and blood all over this person, and I'm going. I said, "Whoa, this is really weird." I said, "Do you want to make a statement?" I says, "No way." I said, "If you don't mind, I will not say anything until I talk to my lawyer." So they said, "That's fine." So I called my assistant and I said, "Can you believe this?" So I'm now in a jail cell for something that I have proof that never happened, video proof that never happened. And they said, "There's all this blood." I said, "Blood from what?" "Well, from this and that." I said, I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay." And I didn't want to say anything. I just said, "I'm not going to tell you anything, because when you say I didn't do it, you did it. That's it, So no matter what you say, you did it." So I said, "This is, I watch enough Perry Mason to know that innocent people get accused of crimes that they didn't do. Thank God there was a Perry Mason, because all these people that get, convicted, accused of murder, they're in jail for something that the cop knows he did, she did, is proof that somebody didn't do it." So I'm in this jail cell, and I'm thinking, my God, I knew my day was going to change forever. Today, I knew it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in this jail, and I'm thinking, this is so surreal. And I'm laying in this, really cold, piece of metal, and I'm laying there, and I can't believe this is happening to me. And so they, processed me, and I'm thinking, this is so terrible. It's hard to believe. So it's about 3 in the morning. They take this MugShot. I go back to this. Okay, go back to this. But there was something really interesting happened. I'm trying to sleep. I called my assistant, and I said, "This is what happened." She says, "Don't worry. This alone would be okay." So it's about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's this music blaring all of a sudden out of nowhere. And I says, "God, I know that song, And I'm like trying to sleep, and I had a monster migraine headache, and there was nobody helping me. And I said, "Geez, I don't know what the hell's going to happen here." And I just hear this music blaring, and it was that time of year. And I said, "What the fuck?" I said, "Am I hearing something?" And I remember hearing, "We love you, Vinnie, don't worry." It was like some of the younger cops. And and I heard somebody yell that. And I said, "Wow, nobody would believe this, because I don't." So that was my night of something that was so horrible. I got bailed out the next day about noon, and that was the beginning of the end. But in what happened during that last day was, when the police came, so did the animal abuse ASPCA or whatever came, and found these dogs, and they jumped to the immediate conclusion, immediate accusation. Are these abuse? Are these animals abused? Which is something I would jump to, This is something that I would say. You got dogs out here in containers, Who killed them? So she said our bigger dogs killed them. So the authorities took the dogs out and they investigated it, rightly so, and they found out that it was true that they were killed by other dogs. But yet, because I was Vinnie Vincent, because I was a rock star in a town that hated Kiss, they looked at Kiss as, we don't want you kind here, and that's the way it is and was. So I was already accused of killing these dogs in the media when in fact it was anything but that. So I was in a bad situation, because now I'm accused of domestic abuse, which I didn't do. Then I'm accused of killing dogs, which I didn't do. So the way it ended was the videos played the card that said, you didn't do this, Vinnie, and everything ended. And I won't go any farther than that, but that was it. So. I think now you know, and that's exactly the way it happened. So.
I believe you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for saying that, but even respectfully saying this to anyone, if you didn't believe it, that's okay, but I know that's what happened, and we're in a world now where you believe somebody or you don't, and it's up to your choice to do or say whatever you believe, but I had to tell you this, and that's all I could do,
Another story I think fans always wonder if you have just covered briefly is the infamous box set.
Infamous box set. Okay, I know the story. Vinnie ripped us off, intentionally took our money. I know it all. I know it. I had some boxes that I was going to bring, but in all the craziness, the posters are here, but I didn't bring. I forgot to bring the boxes. This happened in '95, I remember. The internet had just got started, and I wanted to, I've got all this music, and it was going to start as some cassettes. And I remember spending about $30,000 of money that was all I had. And I spent it all putting this together because I wanted the fans to have this, There was so much stuff I had recorded. And I went through all of this. I went through the artwork. I went through the box pressing. I went through everything. And I had all the music compiled. And it got 75% finished. And I made another one of my famous mistakes. I figured, well, this is going to be finished. I know everybody, I put the idea out there and everybody said, well, we want to buy it now. I said, okay, we'll take pre-orders. One of my famous mistakes, I took pre-orders, which I shouldn't have done. I should have waited for it to be completely finished. So I figured a price that I could charge everybody was $120. I didn't take many orders, thank God. But the people whose money, who paid for it, all of a sudden there was a cross. Life crossed itself again on me. So instead of finishing it and giving everybody the box set, the lawsuit sucked me into a jet engine and never to be heard from again. So here I am with everybody, it didn't happen until about a few years later, and I saw it on the internet. Vinnie's ripping people off, and I was like, oh shit, here we go again. So I'm now into this horrible lawsuit, and with somebody who wanted to make sure that I never lived to tell. And I figured, it's all just crumbling and it's getting worse. Hopefully there'll be a good end to this story. I don't know where, but what happened was one of my lawyers at the time said, oh, I'll pay for it. Don't worry. I'll put up the money. We'll finish your box. You can give all the fans the product. She disappeared on me and said, I can't do this now, so we can't finish your box set. And then I was left with a real mess. So I was hoping that one day I could finish it and talk to you all and said, please forgive me, I'm so sorry. It's not what I wanted to happen, but I'm really sorry for everybody who thought that this is what I was doing, but it wasn't. I wanted you to have the music. I still want you to have it. And when Derek called me and said, let's do this, I started working on it again, and hopefully I'm going to work my tail off to make sure I get this box finished this year, and everybody will have what they paid for, and with a few thank you gifts from me to say, I'm really sorry it took so long, but better late than never. So that's it. That's the story. Am I talking too much for you?
Hell no.
You sure?
Yeah. This is what we came
am I
for.
boring anybody? No? Okay. Thank you guys back there. You know, I love you. I never did this before. I never got this personal, but I needed this, you know. I needed it for me. So.
Are we gonna hear some new music from you in the coming year, or the coming 2 years?
You bet. You bet. You bet. I've got so many songs, you know. And I actually was recording into the late 90s, so I've got a lot of stuff still. Hey, is there who's the guitar here?
Not pink.
Pink? Yeah, I should. Let's anybody got a spray paint here? Pink spray? What's that? Oh,
the attorney's getting involved.
Mark wants me to tell. This is my dear friend and my guitar tech and my roadie. Bill and I go back to 1985. This is Bill Temple, everybody.